New York City has nearly 8 million people.
Over 535,000 of these New Yorkers have some type of physical disability, which causes difficulty with things like walking or climbing stairs.
My deer in the headlights, Jesus can stare, and I bet she just glares.
Do you live in the city?
I do.
I don't. Yes. Okay, maybe you should go first.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So it's the same
Let me get all of you.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, we do.
And do you think it's a good place to live?
I love New York. I love my city.
Yes, for a certain amount of time.
100%. Yeah, it's a great place.
It's a lovely place. It's a fantastic place to live. Yes.
When we try to hold it. Every time we try, when we let it go, it just goes again.
And how about for somebody who has a physical disability?
Maybe not as accessible. I think of like my commute to work, and I think of how much longer it would take someone who had a physical disability to get there.
It's not that tough, but it's tough, but not that tough.
Do you think it's a good place to live for somebody who has a physical disability?
That can be hard to navigate. It gets quite crowded here, you know?
I would say it's pretty well prepared for that.
Okay. What do you think the issues would be there? The issues?
The issues. What kind of issues? You can go around. It's accessible.
A lot of times the design in New York City, it's not very accommodating.
Getting like down the sidewalks. If you're in a wheelchair, it's definitely harder to like push yourself down the sidewalk, especially if you're going somewhere far. I know like the subway stop that I get on at, I've seen people in wheelchairs have a hard time, and there's usually other people that have to help them.
No coffee and donuts. Newspapers been popping. That's one of the moments. Let's save our personas.
My name is Spencer Wolff. I am in 8th grade at the Homix Middle School in Mamaroneck, New York. I have something called cerebral palsy, which means when I was born, I didn't get enough oxygen, which means my brain sends too many messages to my legs, and yeah. So my legs don't work the way yours do.
What has been your experience traveling through New York City so far?
Here's the thing about the New York City subway system. The first New York City subway line opened on October 27th, 1904. That's 112 years ago. So that line is bound not to be accessible. But for Union Square, on that line, for them not to try to revamp it and to not make it accessible, they're limiting a little piece that is important to the city for people on the Lexington Avenue line. And by the way, that happens all around the city. I think only 22% of New York City subway stations are accessible. I think that's right. But yeah, you have to improvise when you go into New York because not everything is accessible. Now I just want to make a comparison to Boston, for example. Boston system was opened before New York City opened. I think Boston has 4 stations that are not accessible. Now don't get me wrong, Boston is a way smaller city than New York. But still, we're spending money on Wi-Fi and new stations, but why spend it on Wi-Fi when you could spend it on accessibility?
Do you think a suburb like Westchester or a smaller city like Newark would be better for somebody with disability? Or
If they can drive.
do you think a suburb like Westchester or a smaller city like Newark would be any better?
Definitely. I actually live in Long Island, which is the suburbs. And I find that there it's much easier to navigate, much less people. And you'll find that the people in the streets are much more willing to help people. Whereas here, everyone has a mission, everyone has a place to go. So if you're in the suburbs, it's a lot easier to navigate in that sense.
I agree. I'm also from the island, and there is more room to move around, and I feel like any place with the right design can be accommodating for whatever it is sort of specialty need that anyone has, but the suburbs do have more space for that, I guess. But I mean, if your heart is in New York and not on like Long Island in a suburb, then maybe find ways to make that happen.
Stephen Myers was born with cerebral palsy. He currently lives and works in Newark, New Jersey, and is part of a community called JESPI.
JESPI in and of itself is just an amazing place for adults with developmental disabilities, and we encourage them to be as independent as possible. So it's a really unique setting in that many of our clients are living independently in the community, which is not something you see very often with this population.
We interviewed Stephen and 3 of his friends, who are also JESPI clients, on their experiences in New York City.
Usually when we go in the city by ourselves, he doesn't go, he stays home.
Yeah. But the one time he did go with us, with a group, we went into the city to see a show off Broadway, I think. When we got back to South Orange, most of us got off the train, and we were looking for Stephen, the staff, and my husband, and we're like, where did they go? Turned out they ended up going to the Maplewood. Next station in Maplewood, and one of the staff had to go pick them up in Maplewood. So even able-bodied people didn't get off the train in enough time because the conductor didn't realize.
My name is Shannon Remillard. I am the Community Inclusion Coordinator here. Community Inclusion is just a fancy way of saying Recreation Department, basically. We do everything from arts groups to journaling to movie nights to special events. We just had an 80s party last month. We did a themed dinner and a movie for the Avengers last week. All kinds of stuff like that. We took one group of clients on a private vacation and we went into the city, and all those clients were in wheelchairs. And we got a room at this hotel that said they were completely accessible and, you know, they were ready for us, and we got there and there was not even a ramp to get in. So people's idea of accessibility is completely different.
Do you think that the city is a good place for people with disabilities to live? And do you think it's better or worse than Newark?
The benefit of living in the city with a disability is that you can basically walk to wherever you need to get. There's a lot that's located centrally where you don't have to travel that far, but if your issue is walking and there's no one to assist you with that, it becomes more of a challenge. I have some clients from previous jobs that have actually moved to the city, and they live together, but they struggle sometimes if they have to go grocery shopping or something because they don't have any way to get all their bags back and their walkers, you know. So it's easy to get places, but once you start adding extra baggage in, it becomes more difficult.
Recently, the city of New York has actually been making a conscious effort to become more accessible.
There are a couple of taxi services in the city now that cater specifically to people with disabilities. Obviously, the general population too, but they have cabs that are specific, that they will only send out to clients who say that, you know, they need those vehicles. So that's made it easier for them, but it's still, if you can't get a car that day, if you can't get one at the right time, it's not as easy for someone with a complex physical disability to get around as it should be in an area where everything is so centrally located. I would say that it's probably easier to live there than somewhere like Newark, because actually I have found that when I'm traveling in the city, people are more helpful in New York than they are in most other places, which is kind of funny because New York gets this rap for everyone not caring if you're lying dead on the side of the street. But every time that I've been there, the general population is very, oh, you know, we'll get out of your way on the sidewalk, we'll help you with, you know, so it's not that, it's not as bad as everyone says there. I would probably prefer to live in New York if I had a physical disability myself.
Overall, New York does provide a few benefits for people with disabilities. Everything is close together, and New York has made some efforts to make transportation more accessible, but there is still a lot of work to be done.
And save our personas while doctors persuade you stronger till you think that you living longer. My ace in the hole. Watch how I wish that these 18-year-old games was longer. Till I wish that I had took honors and gone to med school so I could solve your problems. I'm further from heaven. I'm peeping your leverage.